All right, all right, all right, all right. You know, people say I sound like Nicolas Cage. I mean, you know, we all hear ourselves in with our skull vibrating and through our ears, through ear canals and everything about our head. So that's why everybody says, I don't sound like that, do I, when they hear their voice recorded. I'm pretty used to knowing what my voice sounds like because I've edited videos and things like that. But the first time you hear your voice, you're like, oh, I don't sound like that. But I was getting a guitar worked on in Glendale, and I was driving back, and I was getting hungry, so I stopped into a Habit, which is a chain of burger joints. Good morning, Bruce. Morning, Richard. And I ran into my friend Jeff, and he was having his Tesla worked on next door, and so he was getting something to eat, and so we sat together and we talked for a long time. I hung out with him probably for an hour and a half, and then when we got up to leave, we were in a booth. There was a girl sitting with her back to us in the booth next to us, and she was like, had a laptop out and papers everywhere, and she was working. And I'm like, I said to her, I'm sorry, I hope we weren't making too much noise for you working here. And she said, no, but I thought you were Nicolas Cage. I actually had to look over and see who it was. And that's the first time anyone said to me in person that they thought. But on YouTube, I get people telling me I sound like Nicolas Cage all the time. It's pretty funny. There's an actor somebody says I look like too. But I'm gonna change legs with my guitar, my foot pedal, so that I can kind of play in a more traditional classical manner. Let's see. Right? No, yes. So there's a shift on the sixth string. D, C, B, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Now, one I haven't worked on is that bottom one down here. The IM, AM was part of my practice routine. The AM, IM, so in other words, ring, middle, index, middle, that one I just saw on one of the scale sites, and I've never really worked on it. It makes complete sense. It's just the opposite, kind of the opposite of the other one. But my teacher never had me do that. I think I'd have to. Where it gets tricky is when you change strings. When you go to the next string, you got to make sure. So if I go A, M, I. See, I probably should start with the C scale, which is one that's a little bit easier, right? Maybe did it right. I turned it around there. Becker, what's going on? Oh yeah, that was fun. We had a great time. I love Paul. Paul's a great guy. Maybe in a couple of years we'll do another one. We'll talk about all the weird instruments I play. Somebody suggested that him and me and who's the guy that does interviews with people that play weird instruments and then he tries to play them. He's really fun. I subscribe to him too. I probably have gotten a couple instrument ideas from him that I didn't know about. I know you know who it is, but I can't think of it offhand. You got to get back to work. Okay, Becca, I totally understand. Sorry about that. Oh, students waiting. Are you teaching guitar or are you, I forget. Yeah, you're teaching guitar. Still warming up. I know I messed up because I ended up on the middle finger and I started on the index. So it should end on the index. Yeah, there I ended correct. That's because I messed up at the top and I had to start over again and I didn't start on the correct finger. And so what I'm playing is the Segovia scale, the A minor, and it's melodic minor. Not sure. I mean, melodic makes some sense. Yes, I saw that. So 138. Yeah, it's getting up there. I mean, I've gotten. So normally, if I look at the analytics, Bruce, lately I've been getting around 660 per 28 days. And so I've got 1,300 subscribers in the last 30 days. So there was a bump, obviously. And so I got an extra 390 that day that video came out. So if there's anybody here that watched that video and John, I just was wondering about when you're playing the scale vertically, when do you decide to make the horizontal shift up the fretboard to a new position? That's a great question. I don't decide anything. This is Segovia's methodology. So Andre Segovia probably tried every possible permutation of playing the scale up the fretboard, and the goal is so often is the goal in trying to get your speed up and your agility and your facility up is efficiency. Is try to be as efficient as possible. So I don't know why he chose this way. It's not random. I'm not just randomly choosing to. Now, if I were just improvising, I would totally, if I was just improvising and say A minor, I would be, I would. And there might be some, I don't know what I just did. But there might be some methodology behind when I shift up. But a lot of times I'm shifting up because I want the sound of that C sliding up to the E for my melodic idea. Right? So when you're improvising, those shifts occur sometimes if you memorize patterns and things like that and you're playing patterns, which I don't generally try to do when I'm soloing, when I'm improvising. I want to try to make conversation. I want to have a melodic concept. I want the solo to have some kind of arc to it, some kind of story behind it maybe, or some kind of I want the guitar solo to justify itself. I don't want it to just be like a bunch of licks. I don't want it to just be kind of showing off. So when the rubber meets the road and I'm actually using scales in a soloing context, which is when you would kind of do it, yeah, it's usually the melody that dictates when I go up or down, or how I go up. Right? Just... So I just shift when I feel like I want the melody to go to that next area, less so because I want to be in that neighborhood. It's just the melody, kind of whatever melody I'm trying to create takes me there. But with Segovia scales, he sat down at some point, went, okay, it makes, he could have done by that first octave, he could have feasibly, he could have done some weird shifts, but I think he wanted to, I mean, it would be interesting. You could easily sit down and figure out particularly on the C scale, you could probably sit down and come up with 8 or 10 or 20 different ways. I don't know mathematically how many possible ways there are to play from here to here. And you would probably come to the realization that, yeah, Segovia was right. It's like you're playing 7/8 of a scale right here, and then 8/8 of a scale here. So it kind of makes sense. And then the fact that he does it the same descending is normal for a major scale in the Segovia scales. With the harmonic minor scales, because they're different, melodic minor scales, they're different ascending than descending. So that's kind of what's, hey, Leo, what's going on? That's kind of what's happening there. Yes, the melodic intent, it dictates a large part of your movement, right? And emotion. Remember, the guitar is such a great instrument, even on classical guitar, but electric guitar thing, we've got bends, we've got slides, we've got pull-offs, we've got hammer-ons, we got slide up, we have whammy bar. So all of that is kind of geared towards creating an emotive moment or an emotion in your playing. And so using those tools often require your hand to move anyway. When George Harrison played the Let It Be solo, you know, he's playing in the pentatonic shapes, and you're like, oh, and I always use that as a great example of how to play in the boxes, because he does that really well in that solo. But he's not going, oh, I think I'll play in the boxes. He's more just creating a melody, and then the melody moves him from one box to another box. It totally makes sense that way. But the movement in the Segovia scales, these are locked in, the locked in stone. Is that the same? What am I trying to say? Etched in stone. And Segovia determined that was the best way to play that first octave, and that was the best way to play the next octave. Actually, that. So if you start with your pinky on the fifth string, 12th fret on the A, play that, and you can use a pick. It doesn't matter. You can use one finger with your right hand. There's so many things going on when you're literally practicing Segovia scales, and it's been a long time since I had a regimen, a routine that I did on a daily basis. Exactly. Yeah, guitar has probably more ways. In fact, I still want to do this video. I forget what it was, up to 63 ways you can play the same note. I want to do that video really bad, and I just having a hard time organizing it and filming it, and I need to change instruments, which is totally fine, but it's a lot of moving parts. I've shot it twice now, and I haven't liked what I've done, which is the hidden cost of YouTube. You know, it's like you think, oh wow, you're making that much money on YouTube. It's like, yeah, but when you divide it by the hours worked and you divide it by the hours worked on videos you never ever released. I may shoot a video today. I'm compiling diagrams. I'm creating diagrams for the pentatonic guitar that Paul liked. It's sitting right over there, and I spent some time with it. I hadn't really spent any time with it. Paul's the one that kind of, I just tuned it up that way and kind of went, oh, this is cool, and I used it on something. But it was just sitting there, and I handed it to Paul, and he thought it was really cool. So that kind of got me excited about it, and that's why I'm trying to formulate. So I'm going to do a video, talk about it, show it off a little bit, and then I'll say at the end of the video, I'll show you a bunch of chords if you really want to tune this way, and some scales if you really want to tune this way, just for fun. And so I'll have a lot of diagrams there. And that's, I'm spending time kind of creating those diagrams, and it just takes time to move the dots around and rename things and that kind of crap. So we're here with our pinky on the A note, and then we go first finger on the 9th fret of the 4th string, which is B, second finger on the 10th fret of the 4th string, which is C, and then pinky on the D. So again, A, B, C, D, and then E is right here. So play that. And you could even practice all of the variations on your right hand. Start with the middle. Start with the ring. Do ring. Index ring, which is actually one of the better feeling ones. Ring index, and then you could do index middle, ring middle. End with an index. Hey, Beco Cat. What's going on? AJ, what's going on? You could also mess around with the different rhythms, but that's really the rhythms right here come more into play if you're going to play the whole scale all the way through back and forth. You know, it's just because that's the repeated thing. And the rhythms here are a way to force you to go faster. If you're trying to increase your speed, which kind of we all are. You want to get it down with, at a certain tempo, maybe 80 BPM with 8th notes, and then try to go to triplets, 80 BPM, and then see if you can do the 16th notes. And then, and then if you can't do the 16th notes, try the dotted 8th to the 16th, okay? Because this one here will trick you into being able to do this one. It's really interesting. Okay, so now we've gone here. So we're A, B, C, D, E, and that's a melodic minor scale. The two weird notes are the F sharp and G, and you're going to slide your first finger up and play G sharp here and A here. But let's get to F sharp first. So we have A on the 10th fret, then B on the 9th fret, C on the 10th fret. Did I say 10th fret here? 12th fret. 12th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret, 9th fret with the E, 11th fret with the F sharp, 9th fret with the G sharp, and then slide it up a fret and get that C note. The A note. And you don't really want to practice it backwards. You can just practice it up, because you're not going to play it that way. You're not going to play it that way descending, remember? That's the weird thing about the melodic minor scale, is it has the raised 6th and 7th ascending and then return back to their natural state on the descending. Why? I don't know. But the fact that if you look at an A minor chord and if you want an E7 chord, you've got a G sharp in there. So how do you accommodate that in the key of A minor? Well, you create a harmonic minor scale. It gives you that G sharp, okay? But why the F sharp? Well, maybe because if you want a D major and an E major, and it probably goes back to Renaissance music or definitely Baroque. I wonder, is there a Wikipedia page for the melodic minor scale? Let me look it up and see what Wikipedia says. Here we go. Melodic minor scale. Okay, well, we'll see. It's going to pull me up a minor. Okay, melodic minor. Distinctive sound of the harmonic minor scale comes from the augmented second, yeah. But, okay. Well, some composers have used this interval to advantage them. Others felt like it was a awkward leap, particularly in vocal music, and preferred the whole step between these scales. Okay, so if you'll notice, this is interesting. So I'm learning something here right along with you. So when we play melodic harmonic minor scale. Okay, so it's a minor scale: A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, A. Normally G. Natural minor would just be G. A harmonic minor is with a G sharp. But composers often thought that this interval, that diatonic scale, should not contain thirds. And that F to that G sharp, while that technically is they call it an augmented second, could also be called a minor third. Okay, but it's called an augmented second because we're talking about F and G. If we were saying F and A flat, we'd say, oh, F to A flat, F, G, A. So there's 3 letters there. But when you say F to G sharp, which is what it is in melodic or harmonic minor, that's technically would be called an augmented second. And do not worry, everybody take a sip. There's not going to be a quiz on this. All right? And I broke my mug that said there won't be a quiz on this. But there will not. Okay? The difference between the difference between a augmented second and a minor third. But they're the same thing. Okay. So it's kind of like a diminished fifth and an augmented fourth. They're the same thing. 2 different names for the same interval. So what they did was they said, well, let's make this, instead of being a half step here and then a third, a minor second, then a minor third, let's make it a major second and then a major second and a minor second. So you ended up with no thirds in there. That's according to Wikipedia. So that kind of makes some sense from a compositional side. They said it was harder for vocalists. Or they perceived that it might be difficult for vocalists to sing that interval. I think also it might have given, and thinking about European history, right? There was a long period of time where Europe was controlled by the Moors, and that was the Middle Eastern influence. You can see it in Spain and Morocco, and the Spanish, and you can even see it in France and stuff. But and maybe there was a thing where it sounded that interval sounded a little too exotic and not classical enough. Coming up in the Baroque era, Renaissance, Baroque, and so on, classical, Romantic eras. In the Romantic era, it was very common, and so there was a lot more influence of the music from other countries or other parts of the world that filtered into the harmonic and melodic concepts of the Romantic era of music, but less so in classical, and even less so in Baroque, and even less so in Renaissance. And it might have been a reaction against their captors, which I think was in Europe for 800 years or something like that. My history's not very good. Hello, oh, you lovely people. Yeah, we had our time change. I was a little disappointed. I saw a poll that said only 54% of Americans want to get rid of daylight savings time. Get rid of the time change. I'm like, did they not understand the question? I don't, but the problem is, which do you go with? Because you're either going to have really dark mornings or really dark evenings. And so, like this morning was dark when it got up, and the sun will be up later to, stay up later. And so, I don't know. It was done for farming purposes, I think, originally, because the farmers had to get up early or whatever. And so, They typically went to bed early. So I don't know. Okay. All right. So melodic minor, again, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And you notice I went from G sharp to A by moving this. Okay, now let's go from here. It's going to be hard. Get ready. But we're going to go A, B, C. That's so beautiful on the guitar. Such a great place to put. Yeah, that's kind of and one of the tricks to getting rid of that nasal tone of the guitar, and I'll show you in just a second. All right, it's something about the shorter and thicker strings just kind of makes it a little bit more. Just I don't know, it just sounds. I've got a lot of overtones here, but. But one of the tricks is to turn your, we talked about this before too, about not picking straight on, but actually rotating your pick about 45 degrees and have the string go kind of roll over your tip of your pick rather than the pick kind of flicking the string. It really rounds off the tone. It's like. Really warms up your tone. I noticed at first with mandolin players, like bluegrass mandolin players, that would literally turn their pick 45 degrees. And the same thing kind of with your nail. It's like you don't want the string to go off the flesh of your finger and onto the pick. You don't want. Can you hear that? Hear that click? That's the sound of the string going off the flesh of my finger and onto the nail. And then I go. All right. Now, obviously, you don't pluck the string like that. You go like this. But when at the speed that you're going, that is still there. You can do it right now. Just mute me. Mute me and listen to it. And it's true with fingers on any instrument. And it's a little bit, it sounds like it has a sinus infection. But if you turn your finger, it warms it up. It gets rid of that. My teacher taught me this. Basically, you want the string to go off the flesh and the nail at the same time. Use both. It's not all nail. Now, some people, like some flamenco players, have these plastic nails that are really long, and they may only pluck with a nail, like they're using a guitar pick. But if your tone starts getting like a little, it's just warmer. It's much warmer and rounder that way. Well, yeah. It does generate some vibrato. It's more of a volume. Oops. Really hard to. Yeah, on electric, it's easier to kind of do a vibrato. When you're doing vibrato like this, your pitch is going to go up but not down. So you're only going to be pitch-wise above that string. This is not really so much a pitch vibrato as much as it's more of a volume vibrato. It's kind of like the difference between a vibrato and a tremolo. But on classical guitar, this is a tremolo. So when you say, hey, play tremolo on classical guitars, they're gonna go, they're gonna do something like that. So Who passed away? Oh, because he had Parkinson's. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had a friend of mine passed away from Parkinson's a while ago, quite a while ago. Very good guitar player friend. He was originally a Jewish stand-up comedian who became a Baptist pastor and a jazz guitar player. He was Bob Sobo was quite the enigma. You couldn't predict what he was going to be up to next. So we're here, and then we go A, B, C. So we're 10, 12, 13, 10, 12. All right. And then this is where we're going to jump up here. And if you want, you can put your thumb on the side here. Basically, that's proper technique. Two things have to technically happen. And I don't know if this is Segovia's methodology or my teacher's, but it's pretty standard. But two things happen. The thumb goes here, and check out see if you can see what I'm doing with my first fingers here. Look at that. I'm bending it back like this, okay? I'm bending it back. Do you see that? So because if I use the tip of my finger, for one thing, so if I flatten it out like that, it kind of feels like you've got a pivot foot more, right? It's like when you're playing basketball and you're pivoting on a foot, you leave one foot planted. It's kind of, this is like planting a foot. So if you go, that's what you need to practice in this, to get this scale down. Okay, you need to play the D, E. So you're playing the D, E normal. And at this point, you can start bringing your thumb around. And then put your thumb to the side, and then play that F sharp with the first finger. And it should be a little bit marginally easier. I don't know if Pepper's here, but marginally easier to grab that G sharp and A, which you're almost at the very top of the guitar. Now, if you have a cutout, you don't need to do that. If you have a classical guitar, an acoustic guitar with a cutout, which I prefer not to have that. My Taylor has it. Let's see. My Dove does not. My Martin does not. My other Martin does not. My other Martin does not. My other Gibson does not. My Loudon does not. Those are pretty much all of my acoustics. So I think the only guitar that I have that has a cutout is the Taylor. I feel like it kind of makes the sound a little smaller, but you can compensate for that by having a slightly larger body, or deeper. I think that's what they did with the concert. That's a concert, right? That's an 814. But you can just practice that. And then you're going to come back. See, this is where you finish off that melodic mind. You got that F sharp, G sharp, A, and you're going to come back with your second finger playing that G natural. So you're going to be 14, 16, 17, and then 15. Nice, 55 degrees. Yes. That's going to be our high tomorrow. It's been really cold. We're getting a lot of rain too, so for better or for worse. I wish we would capture more of it. We were supposed to build a bunch of, we gave the state a bunch of money back in 2014, I think, like $7 billion bonds to, the problem was I think the bill was written so they ended up using it to put cities on road diets, which I hate. I hate road diets. It's just the stupidest thing. Thinking they're trying to get everybody to ride the bike to work. Well, when it rains 2 weeks in a row, you're not riding your bike to work. This is not going to happen. It's a California, for better or worse, it's a car culture. They took out the red cars, and we, they kept building further and further out, and it's a car culture. So, yeah. So this is a good. Good thing to practice. And then, so descending, we got the D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. There's our melodic minor moment. And then we're going to go to the second finger, which is G. And then we're going to shift down to our pinky. Oh, thank you. God bless you, John. Pinky at the 13th fret, 12, 10, like that. And that's another thing you want to practice. That moment there, that snippet, as I'm known to do. I was working out for about a week. I had a regimen where I was trying to gain speed with my right hand on classical stuff. Like if I could pick something, I could play pretty fast. But with the fingers, for some reason, and so I was trying to do some little like D minor snippets or E minor. Trying to implement different mechanics, adjusting my nails, like filing my nails a little bit, and seeing how fast I could get these little bursts. There's a guy I follow on Instagram. I can't think of his name right offhand, but he's insanely fast. And to my eyes, it looks like his technique is not particularly good. Like I said, with flamenco players, we were taught as classical players, we were taught to use through strokes, not rest strokes, because rest strokes slow you down. Rest stroke is when you hit a note and you rest on the next string. A through stroke is where you just kind of go over the next string, but basically you're not putting a lot of weight. See, I'm putting a lot of weight on that my hand. So it seems like that would slow down, and that was the prevailing opinion. But then when I watch flamenco players, they're some of the fastest players in the world, and they're using rest strokes. And the reason you use a rest stroke, because classical rest strokes are fine, you generally use them for volume. So if I want to play, if I want to go from soft to loud, I might use a through stroke like this, and then gradually go down to a rest stroke to get that extra volume. And so rest strokes are used in classical music, or classical guitar for sure, more for volume than for speed. But in flamenco music, they're playing with a singer and a dancer who's got like castanets, right? And taps on their shoes. The first time I ever went to see some flamenco dancers and guitar player, I was like, oh, dang, that's so freaking loud. I was sitting right next to the dancer, and she was like, she had the taps on her shoes. It was like, are you kidding me? That like I got to play over that? Man, I would have no nails at the end of the night. My nails would just be broken off, flying across the room. So anyway, I spent a couple of weeks, or about a week, doing that every day. I kind of sat down, had a little routine, like for an hour every day for about a week, and I saw some improvement. I didn't keep it going because I got busy or I forgot or whatever, life. I didn't keep it going because of life. And here's the thing: if I was getting more work as a flamenco guitarist, and those are called piccados. And when you're playing fast lines or scales in flamenco music, it's called a piccado. If I was getting work that way, getting calls to play more flamenco session work, then I would do that. But obviously, they're not calling me for that. Although I would love to do more of that kind of stuff, but. Yeah, this is Brazilian rosewood. Yep, back and sides. It's gorgeous wood. I think it's come back. It was low growth for a while. There was like bans on it and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's still illegal to import. Okay, you can have an instrument with it. My piano back in Indiana was ebony and ivory keyboard. And when I was looking into having Steinway replace, do the repair on it, they were going to replace the ebony and ivory keys, and so I was a little bummed about that. I was like, really? Oh, I mean, I think they can still do ebony, but it was the ivory keys that they were gonna just throw away. I'm like, because they couldn't restore the piano without taking away the ivory keys. So I thought that was a little bit of a bummer, but. Okay, Becker, you take off, man. Good to see you. So, as we're coming down, this snippet here is 8 notes in a row, all in one position, and we're in a 10th position, which means the first finger is going to get all the notes on the 10th fret. The second finger, which we're not even going to use here, would get all the notes on the 11th fret, and the third finger would get the 12th fret, and the pinky would get the 13th fret. And that's the little snippet there. So after we get this A up here, the G, we go to F, and from F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, we're all in one position. Oh yeah. Yep, that's funny. Yeah, Devonshire is just down the road from me. Oof. You got it from a teacher. I got this one from another guitar player in South Pasadena. He'd upgraded, and I needed a better. I had like a Yamaha classical that I'd bought for college. That was kind of a piece of garbage, and I still have that guitar, actually. I should go get that guitar because I did something interesting with it, and I should show it to you. It's kind of weird. But I'd have to leave. You'd have to entertain yourselves if I go get that guitar. So you can do that, right? So again, top string, 13, 12, 10, 13, 12, 10, 12, 10. Okay, and then this is where one of the shifts come in, the descending shift. We already had the descending shift here. And that you're going to want to practice. It's hard. 3 blind mice? Not quite. But that's A, G natural, F natural, and then descend from there. Hope I can get that video done today. That's kind of my goal. It's going to be raining the rest of the week, so I'm wondering if, I don't know, I've done videos in the rain, so it's not a big deal. But I want to do a video on the pentatonic guitar. I'm going to do a video on all of them, I think, on all the weird tunings, because the tuning videos do pretty well. Fortunately, before Paul posted his video, he delayed it a bit. I posted the video on that C fifth tuning thing, and some people have told me what it's called. I didn't really know there was a name for it. I kind of call it a cello tuning, kind of 5-string cello tuning or whatever. I like the fact that it's 5 strings. I could put a higher string on there to go like up. That'd be really high though, a B note. Some people put a G up there or something. I don't know. I didn't want to make it too confusing. I wanted to be able to just see it as it was. But that video, it's got 1,500 views. It's not like killing. My last video that got over 10,000 views was some dadgad progressions, some fun dadgad progressions. The dadgad stuff does very well. I could do a lot more dadgad stuff, I suppose. Really not much, not a whole lot of action. Mostly, 5,000 views, 1,000 views, 2,000 views. Eventually these like my previous 4 videos don't even have 1,000 views yet. Although 2 of them are jam tracks, a Pink Floyd jam track and a Robin Ford jam track. So those aren't going to necessarily get many views. The Robin Ford one has some negative comments somebody thumbs down, but yeah. So it's not. It's not the medium that it once was for me. It's doing okay, but we've got 22 people on right now. I have a feeling a lot of people are like, "Oh, Tom's not on until 9 o'clock," and then they realize, "Oh wait, it's already 9 o'clock." So we'll probably get some people show up at 10 o'clock in my time. So again, we just did this, and then this is where one of the shifts happens. We're 12-10, and then 9-7. One thing you could do, for one thing, you can practice that bit, right? From the F down to the F and then shift down to the D. One thing you could practice is you're using your pinky on these top 2 strings, right? On that F note there. And and the C note here. Practice keeping your pinky up for that. Even though you're not using it, you're going to use it here, okay? In fact, you can see a C scale here. You can hear it as kind of a C scale. But keeping that pinky available, I know you see this, you watch me play more than I watch me play. I know I tuck that pinky away. It's almost a natural thing, especially when you push the third finger, when you're flexing the third finger, you know, the other fingers tend to want to do stuff. When you push on that, you know, they all have, I always say the hand, you know, can expand when it's open, but when it's closed, all the fingers want to come together. See that? They all want to go to the same point in the center of your hand. And so this is an opportunity for you to practice doing this little, what we call a snippet or a piece of the scale, to practice keeping your pinky out and available. And it may feel weird at first, like, oh, what's my pinky doing? It needs to go away. And that's basically, once we get to here, we get to that E and D here on the third string, then from here almost to the end, we're in this position, and this would be seventh position. So we have, on the fourth string, we have 10, 9, 7, 10, 8, 7, 10, and then slide down and finish it off with the C, B, A. Now, did I drag this? Did I drag that diagram into Discord? Sorry, I just need the table. Let me see if I did that. No. Desktop. YouTube. Okay, so C major and A melodic. All right, so let me see if it's there. If not, if it is, I'm still going to drag this because I renamed a file. All right, so going to, no, I need to go here. Discord. All right. Oh, I did not. Okay, so let me grab it and put it in there. Now you should have it. And that's the reason, that's the main reason we have for me, the main reason to have the Discord is to be able to get you any PDFs I create or any screen grabs or things like that. That's kind of the main reason for, so it's in on the tab Tom's Lessons and PDFs. Yeah, what kind of classical guitar is it? A Ramirez? I'll hate you if it's a Ramirez. I think Ramirez were expensive. This is an Asturias. I paid $500 for this, and it's pretty much what it's worth. It hasn't really gone up much value. I think you can still find these Asturiases for like $500. So someday I would, you know, in a dream world, if I had the money, I would get a really nice classical. But a really nice classical can cost $10,000 to $15,000, and you can go higher than that too. But you know, I'm not getting any complaints about this one, right? So. If I were to use a metronome, Metronome, where are you? Nope, not there. Here we go. 100. I'll go to 80. You could go down, and you can always double the metronome. Like, for example, if I went to 100, that would be the same as this would be the 8th note if you were at 50. So if you wanted to start down at 50 beats per minute, but 50 is so slow, there's a lot of space in between those clicks, so it's kind of hard to hear. But if you thought of this as an 8th note, this would be 8th notes at 50. Double that, it'll be technically 16th notes at 50. But yeah, so if you wanted to, you could set it. If you wanted to practice triplets at 50, you could set it to 150, and then this would be. So 150 would be triplets at 50, and that would sound like this. And you might put it, if you did it, you might want to put it in like 3/4 or something, so the accent doesn't kind of mess you up, because at 4/4 it's accenting the downbeat. So that would be triplets at 50. You just multiply the number you're practicing by 3, and you get the triplet. Yeah, and triplets are good to kind of hear. Now, you don't really hear it so much there because you're hearing the click. So if I went back to 50, can I just tap that and go down to 50? I don't know if I hold it, it goes faster. Okay. So triplets, it's like I said, at 50, that's a lot of space. And so I got to go back to 4/4, but that's not going to make any difference. This 8th notes. Triplets. So yeah, it's pretty slow. It's kind of hard to hear those. It's kind of crazy, But 50, you can start at 50. You can start at 40. I don't know how low a metronome goes, but again, if you want to make it a little like you're less likely to get off the metronome if you just double it for 8th notes or whatever. You can even double it. Like if I were to just even play quarter notes, it's easier to hear the quarter notes at 50 if I go ahead and go to 100 and then only play on. So that's 100. If I wanted to play half note, if I want to play quarter note at 50, I'd treat it like a half note here. 4, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, right? So, um, yeah, I had a session on Friday. It's kind of been work's been weird. I mean, I'm like, I want to take a vacation. It's, you know, if you have a Alex kind of and I, well, I'm kind of used to it, but Alex, it's hard because nobody pays you to take a vacation. You take a vacation when you're self-employed, um, and you're not only losing the money, having to pay for the vacation, but you're also losing the income. Um, yeah, I was sitting like that before. Obviously, that was just to show you quickly, but generally, you sit with your left foot on a footrest, and then you play generally like that, not like this. But anyway, so but yeah, so I would love to take an extended vacation and go to Europe again. Um, so we're looking at it. Most musicians really don't take vacations. They go on tour. I was just talking to someone who tours. Well, in fact, on Friday I was working with a bass player named Sean Hurley, who plays bass with John Mayer, and toured with him quite a bit, but also plays on like all of his records right now. And so um, uh, Sean was great. We had a great session. It was an all day session. It was technically a triple session. It was a 9 hour session. um, but yeah, so when work is slow, you don't have the money to go on vacation. When work is busy, you don't have the time. So it's kind of this weird freelance kind of thing. It's like if I knew that I wasn't going to be working the last 2 weeks or whatever, I've been working, but if I knew I wasn't going to, I would have taken a vacation the last 2 weeks, but I didn't know I wasn't going to, a lot of times you don't get work until the day of the work. People will send me stuff today. I have to keep tabs on my email and my cell phone and everything, just to make sure that I'm not getting a request for something. So, and I'm in my studio every day. And 7 days a week. So if there's somebody that needs me to do something for a project, I'm always available when I'm in town. One of the things I like to do though is say, hey, I'm going to go on vacation. Once I have a vacation booked, I start to let the composers I work for know, the people I work for know, and then invariably I start getting a lot more work because they want to make sure they get the stuff they need from me beforehand, or they forget. Oh yeah, Tom. Oh yeah, I gotta have Tom do this thing, but whatever. So a lot of times it's just used as a reminder that I exist. Um, but yeah, so it's a weird business. It's a weird business, and like I said, and one of the things, part of the reason I want to take a trip is because it's particularly Europe. I feel like there's a finite number of times that Beth and I are going to be able to do that. The older we get, the more of a hassle it's going to be. And so I'm saving some of those things like Hawaii and driving around California, saving some of that stuff, maybe going to, New Orleans or something, things we've never done before, for when we're a little older, because it's just, sitting on a plane for 14 hours is not a lot of fun. And so, but we're thinking about England in the summer, so we'll see. Tiptoe through the tulips. And so, hey, Holly, good to see you. Oh, you're still in Seattle. Well, hey, say hi to your daughter. Good to be with family. Alex and I are working together. We're watching Cowboy. I could go get Cowboy. You want to see Cowboy? We're watching Cowboy because, hey, Cowboy, come here. See if he comes. I don't know if he will. And because Jack and Sawyer, Jack, my son that works as an engineer, he he had a big project due, and and it was like a project that he had to do that he got dropped in like 2/3 of the way through the project, so he kind of had to pick up some pieces and finish it and present it. And he's pretty good talking in front of people. I think he was really good in college doing that, speaking in front of people. Cowboy, come here. Because, oh, there you are. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come here. I know you want to go outside, don't you? Come here. I'll let you outside in a second. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. This is Cowboy. Say hi, Cowboy. Yeah, Cowboy, what's going on? Yeah, you're shaking. Is it cold? Are you cold? You're just excited. He misses his mom and dad. He misses his mom and dad, but they get back tomorrow night, so you'll see him. It's funny because I can imitate Jack, and to get him to come in from outside because he doesn't ever want to come in from outside. Ooh, you're shivering. To get him to come in from outside, I go, shoot, dang it. Yeah, exactly. All right, here you go. Get down. He's like, he was nervous to be in front of you. Nervous to be on TV. Aren't you, Cowboy? You want to go outside? Come here. I can let you out this door. Come here. Come here. You want to go out this door? Oh, okay. All right. Cowboy likes to bark at the neighbor dogs, so he'll be out there barking. I don't generally like him to do that. We've got a neighbor who just lets their dog bark all day long. I'm like, really? And I can see over the fence, I can see the dog, and the kids are in the house, the family's in the house, the dog's just big dog, standing in there barking for them to let him in, and they just don't hear it. They've tuned it out. But the neighbors, we all hear it. In the summer, it's bad because you got the house open up, and it's like, oh my gosh. I have to sometimes shut my windows and close everything up just so I don't get them on recordings. But, yeah, sorry, 16 minutes. Yep, California clocks went forward. I knew we'd miss some people because, I've told you the story where, I think I told you the story last week where I almost got fired from a job because I was an hour late for work, and they were like, "You're late," and I went, "No, I'm not." I look at my watch. It was like, "No," and and they go, "You're an hour late. It's 10 o'clock," and I went, or they said it's 11 o'clock, and no, it's 10 o'clock, and they thought I was like lying. They said, "You forgot to set your clock back," and I went, "What are you talking about?" I mean, they might as well have said to me, "You forgot that April 5th is the day you eat an umbrella." I'm like, why would I eat an umbrella? In Indiana, we didn't change our clock, so I'd never even heard of it. Didn't remember that it happened or knew that it happened, and they didn't believe me. Finally, someone at work said, "I think I heard that some states don't change their clocks." In fact, Arizona is one of those states that tends to not change their clocks. I think it depends on where in Arizona you are, but they go back and forth between Pacific and Mountain Time, which is what we did in Indiana. And, so I realized something was happening. I knew that when I was a kid that prime time was, in the winter, was 8 to 11, and in the summer it was 7 to 8. So like the evening news, the local evening news would come on at 11 o'clock in the winter, but 10 o'clock in the summer. So, and it was always nice too, because you could stay up and watch like that third primetime show or whatever, and it would only be 10 o'clock. You'd be going to bed and you'd get plenty of sleep on a school night. But ironically, it was the summer that was the earlier primetime. So, I mean, Monday Night Football didn't start until 9 o'clock, and sometimes those games would go past midnight. I'd show up at school on Tuesday, just like, it was like a zombie. Yep, that's right. Indiana's all jacked up. And I was kind of surprised that when I saw the poll that only 54% of Americans want to get rid of daylight savings time. I'm not sure which way we would go, which way is the better way. Maybe now, but then that means it's going to be really dark in the mornings, right? Is that right? My brain is not awake enough to ruminate on it, but if we left it where it is now, for example, so in California, Holly, we would if you left it now, and the days get shorter, regardless, the days are going to get shorter, but I'm like, is the sun going to set at 2 in the afternoon kind of thing? I mean, or is it going to be the other way around where the sun won't get up until, you know, in the winter, you might not have sun until 8 in the morning or something. So it's, you know, it may, originally I think it was done for farmers, right? But also maybe for school kids, so they're not going to school in the dark. So I'm not sure. Maybe you choose the one that's going to be the least likely to have dark mornings. So which would that be, though? But it was only 54% of the people. I thought it would have been more like 70 or 80% of Americans like, yeah, let's get rid of this stupid thing. You know, twice a year we're groggy. Well, once a year. The other, when we get an extra, you know, when we fall back, it's not so bad. Because then we're like, oh, we got an extra hour of sleep. Oh, shoot, I renamed that thing and it disappeared. Oh, so funny. Okay, hold on a second. Sorry about that. You're like, where did the scale go? Okay. Too many windows open. Holy cow. What is with all these windows? Okay. There we go. Boop. I just dropped this in Discord though. So if you go to the Discord link right here, you can download that, print that up if you want to have it. That is basically the first 2 scales of the Segovia scale thing, and keep in mind there's a total of 24 scales, 12 major and 12 melodic minor scales. But just so you know, and I've told you this before, this is C major, this is D flat or C sharp, and then we have D. They're the same, and E flat. So the 4 of the 12 major scales are this. And I think 5 of the major scales are the same, the G one. I think we have F sharp, G, A flat, A. So maybe actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 of them. B may be that way. So between of the 12 major and major scales, Segovia scales, it's those 10 of them are done with two patterns, and then there's E, which starts with an open string, and then F, which has a, and I think F is symmetrical. In other words, it goes down the same way that it goes up. Whereas and that's true with the C scale shapes, all the C, they're identical, ascending and descending, but like the G is different. G is different ascending, and so subsequently those 6 scales are all going to be the same. You have one way to go up and a different way to come down. So let's see. Sample. Oh, if you practice them with MA. Yep, I've got all the variations right here. I didn't realize. So AM will strengthen your IM. I didn't know that. That's cool, if that's true. Yes, all the minor scales are different going down and going up. So when you go up, you've got a raised 6th and a raised 7th. On descending, they're back to natural minor. So for example, the A minor was A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And then descending you have G, F, E, and so on. So it's, so you can't help it. The patterns are different on all of them, ascending and descending. Now again, just like there are a lot of redundant patterns in major and minor, in the major scales. They're also in the minor scale. So I think F minor, I think, is the same as G, like the same as the A. So I think F sharp, see, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, and B? Is B minor? I don't think B minor's... I don't know if B minor's done that way. For some reason, I feel like B minor's... It's been a while. I'll have to look it up. I have the book, but I got so many books, and it's just a sliver of a book. I've given you the link on Amazon. Like, if you want to buy it and give me a little bit of love, know that if you click on this Amazon link, and I think I found the one that I had in college, so it's the same, but it's, well, see, the thing is, Segovia is not, yeah, this is the one. This is the exact one I had in college. Copy and paste it. And if you buy this, if you click on this link and do your Amazon shopping, I think I get a piece of, all the shopping. So, do that. I mean, I don't make a lot. I can show you. I can see. Yeah, I got $6 coming. And that's for 30 days. So, yeah. So it's not exactly, I'm not exactly making the mortgage payment with Amazon money. But yeah, the Segovia scale, that's the exact one I had in college. And that's what this is a screen grab. Whoops, this is a screen grab from that one. Okay. But I have to find it. It's just a few pages. It's not very long. Almost for no, my Starbucks, God bless you. For $6 I could get a couple of these, because mine, I just get a venti coffee and with cream, and I add sweet and low. So I bring my own sweet and low to Starbucks because they don't have it anymore. The pink packets, and they it's my Starbucks that I go to it's only $3.45. But most of the Starbucks are $3.75. Most Starbucks are like, mall, they have to pay more rent, or they have to pay rent, stuff like that. Like, they have to pay a percentage of their money to the mall. Strip malls may be the same thing. So there's one at a strip mall that I go to, and it's $3.75. So whenever I've got lots of points, and whenever I go to one of those, I just use my points for the more expensive ones. I'm such a cheapskate. The link says 8 pages. Yeah, 8 pages, Sam. I mean, it's a little expensive, $12 for 8 pages, but that's the one. And but let me give you a different link for one that has, if you want tablature, okay? Because this one does not have tablature, so you kind of have to see the way you read that. If you look at those, if you look at the like, if you look at the C scale, it says, see the 5 with in parentheses with a bracket? Those first 2 notes are played with your 2nd and 4th finger on the 5th string. Well, you have to know where those 2 notes are on the 5th string. So this might not be the best one for you. This is the standard classic original one. But let me look again, Segovia scale book, because I can give you one that has, well, in fact, this one's the Kindle, but this one's cheaper. It's not public domain technically yet. So here's one. I gave you probably a link for this one before too. This one has tab and grids. So it's less money too. So this one might be the way to go. Sorry, I got to close this window because it's too bright. Oops, not that window, this window. There we go. It depends. If you're really wanting to try to be legit, classical, there's cowboy barking. If you really want to try to be legit, then you're going to want to probably learn to read music and learn all your notes on all up and down the fretboard. And this will help you with that, okay? I feel like. But because if you get the other one, you're probably going to read the tab. and you're not going to read the music notation, or you're going to read the diagram and you're going to memorize it that way. And it's good to have the skill of playing it, but it's also good to know what notes you're playing. It's also good to know the notes up and down the fretboard. To me, that's a thing that will help propel you to the next level of guitar playing, is if you know all the notes up and down your fretboard. And it's not easy. It takes a while to kind of learn them all, mainly because the guitar is not symmetrical. So good to know about the MA. I'm gonna put that to the test. I will practice my Segovia scales MA for a while. I see a lot of guys use IA because those two fingers are, like, if you look at your hand, they're almost the same length. So it makes sense for speed to have two fingers. Like, I'll see a lot of players that their third fingers aren't, or their ring fingers aren't really even involved. But yeah, the MA thing I'll work on. I used to work on them all, like I said. What am I doing? And if you want, you can turn that into a Lydian scale. And I think you could turn it into a Mixolydian scale if you wanted to. It's going to be a little bit different shift. Not really, but you're going to shift with your second finger. You want to practice different scales, you can do that too if you get bored with the major. You're in the major scale. And one of the reasons to practice with a metronome, and even you can have a metronome click, like I said, on the eighth notes, is to avoid what I was just doing just then, was to swing it. I was going, ba-ba-doo-da-doo-da-doo, you know, it was like playing bebop. But that's partially because I'm using my middle and index, or middle and ring, the MA. M A A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M A M. Yeah, you might have to say M A M A M A when you're doing it to make sure you're using the right finger. Because you'll get turned around, you'll use the A twice or the M twice or whatever, and then next thing you get to the last note and you're on the A and you're supposed to be on the M. So, and that's not true for all of them. Like I think for the IM AM, I think when you get is it the major, do you end on the A? See, I'm turning. I'm on the index there, so maybe not. Maybe it's on the minor that you end up. Or if it's a 2-octave one, it might, or 3-octave one, you might end up on you'll have, like, I forget. It's instead of being divisible by 4, it'll be divisible by 4 plus 2 or something like that. So, Sadie, what did you ask? Oh, how are you? That's right. Because your father passed away. Hey, Holly. Yeah. I don't know that we've seen you since we knew that news. I think we found about it. Good. Your daughter's taking good care of you. Yeah, and you really do want to, you do want to pay attention to some, my dad passing away affected me more than I thought it would. In some ways, it was a little bit of a relief. He'd been suffering with cancer for a little while, and it kind of happened pretty fast. I mean, to be honest, I think, oftentimes in hospice, they kind of accelerate the process, but yeah, it was, and I've talked about this too before, like, Holly, your mom passed away before, I think, right? So you're the matriarch now. It's like, when you feel, life is like a ladder, and you're climbing up this ladder, hopefully going to heaven. And when your grandparents, when a grandparent dies, you feel like you kind of went up a rung on the ladder. When your last grandparent dies, you feel like you went up. When your parent dies, when you have a kid, you feel like you go up a rung on the ladder. When your kid has a kid, or your kid gets married, or you get married, there's major life events that just kind of feel like, okay, but again, they're called major life events for a reason, and they're called major life events for a reason, and because it's life, and so many kids don't want to get started with their life. So I talk to a lot of parents whose kids are getting older and they're not married and they haven't started their lives technically, and they're like, well, it's my choice. I don't not necessarily have to. It's like, yeah, but it's kind of just the circle of life, getting married, having kids, it's like it's never been easy. And we're like, well, you don't understand. It's a lot more expensive today. It's like, it's never been cheap to have kids. And yet it's never been as expensive as, I remember before we had kids, Today's Show did a thing where, this was before we had kids. So this would have been, 1990. They were saying it will cost $1 million to have a child and get them through college or whatever. And I was like, no, it won't. Even with inflation for the next, so that would be 22 years, assuming you're responsible for their college. 22, yeah, for you guys maybe, because you're sending your kids to private school and you're buying the nicest clothes, you're spending, you're going to designer. Yeah, sure, Katie Couric's going to spend $1 million on her kids. We didn't, you can't, you don't have $1 million, you can't spend $1 million. This is not possible. So it's like, it maybe costs us $20,000 to get our kids all the way through high school. That's including food and vacations. Per kid, that would maybe 60 grand. It was nothing like they said. And I knew when they said it that it wasn't going to be anything like that. I knew that it was for them in their bubble, their wealthy billionaire bubble. Yeah, sure, that's going to cost that much per kid, but what do you care? So, I was an avid coupon clipper. Heck, we got so many. I had like 50 tubes of toothpaste that I got for free. I had so many, things that were just sitting on, whatever that we got for free. Until they changed the game, the way the game's played. Anytime you can figure it out, they change it. But yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, it's you feel like you've kind of. That's right. No one gets out of here alive. Yeah, that's right, Ollie. That's so true. Yeah, two things you're certain of: death and taxes, right? Yep, you're an orphan now, Holly. We're both orphans. Little orphan Holly, little orphan Tommy. Yeah, and for me, the hard part in some ways is, like knowing that there'll be days where you won't think about them, which is right now that's not happening, but for you, but there are days where but the thing is, you don't think about your great grandparents because you didn't know them, or your great grandparents because you barely knew them. And yet they're in you in a lot of ways, good ways and bad ways. Some of the, our personality traits come from our parents. Some are obviously our hair color, lack of hair, or our eyesight, although neither of my parents wore glasses ever. My parents had perfect eyesight. My sisters had I'm the only one in the family that not only is completely blind in one eye, but is almost completely blind in the good eye. But I've got I found this on at a thrift store. And it's the maraca. My dad was a drummer in college, and he was kind of played percussion and stuff like that. And he loved to sit in with calypso bands and play maracas, and he knew how to do it. And this is exactly the kind of maraca he would have. He would pick them up in Curacao. This was St. Thomas. St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. My parents actually bought a couple plots of land on St. Croix that they ended up selling at a loss because they never developed. They bought land up on the hill. It's probably developed now, but back when they bought it in the 70s and then they sold it in the 80s, there were no plans of putting electricity and sewage and water up there. But I think if I were to look at a map of St. Croix, I would see a lot of stuff up on the hills. So too bad they didn't keep it, but they got rid of it. But yeah, so I have this around. This kind of reminds me of my dad. And sometimes, and Holly, you're sad right now. But sometimes it feels good to get sad and think about your dad, pull out some pictures and watch. I wish I had more videos of my dad. I really don't. I miss the guy. My dad is the reason I'm a guitar player. He's the one that bought me the first guitar. He was excited that I was a guitar player. My mom, not so much, but I think she came to embrace it and she saw both of them fortunately lived long enough to see me see some success. I remember the first real artist I ever worked with was Justin Bieber. And when I played on the acoustic My World's album and played on Baby, I bought some copies and I sent them to, Mom. I sent one to my mom and I think I sent one to my sisters and then to my dad. And he went to his mailbox at his apartment building in Connecticut where he'd moved after he lost everything in Katrina. Katrina, destroyed everything he had. So he ended up moving to this apartment building down the street from my sister in Connecticut. And he went to the mailbox and he pulls out the CD, and there's an old lady that lives in the building too, and she saw that. She goes, "Oh, Justin Bieber, oh, my granddaughters love him." And my dad's like, "Really?" And then later that day he was on the Today Show, and my dad saw Justin Bieber in front of like 1 million screaming fans in Today Show, and he's like, "My son played with him." So that was neither one of my parents ever saw me get a house. That was a bummer. My mother-in-law saw it. My father-in-law never saw it. When your baby girl brings home a guitar player from Los Angeles and says, "Oh, by the way, we're engaged." There was a lot of shock there. Now, my stepfather or my father-in-law and I became, very close. Loved him, and he understood what I did. He actually would have loved to have been an actor, but he worked out. He lived in the farm country, and he had a grain mill. He owned through his family and stuff. They owned a bunch of grain mills or grain storage, not mills, grain silos and things like that. And they had some shops, stores, and stuff like that. And he would have loved to have been an actor, like take a stab at that, but that would have been impossible, but he appreciated it, and he saw me. He lived long enough to see me get some success and get to the point where we will be able to buy a house in California. It's kind of unfair to compare California with anywhere else. Oh wow, that's so hard. Yeah, that's awesome, Holly, that you were holding him at that moment. The grief comes in waves. Yeah. Yep. This great perspective, Holly. That's exactly right. So, but my mom helped make our home possible. And part of the reason she had a little bit of an estate left was because we took her in to take care of her so we wouldn't burn it all out on a nursing home. So we took care of my mom, and Beth did, really, more than me. And consequently, we were able to preserve the estate, my mom's estate, for me and my sisters. And some of that money was part of our down payment for this house. And this house, she would have loved this house. It's very much, and I think of my mom every day in the house because so much of the furniture in this house is from my home growing up. And both of my parents, had that furniture. So I think of both of them a lot. But okay, you're back from your phone call, Sam. We were waiting. I really wasn't teaching anything until you got back. So just kidding. Jan's here. Hey, Jan. I started an hour earlier because we shifted our clocks. We do this stupid thing called daylight savings time, which Again, I wish they would get rid of, but I'm not sure which direction we want to stay. I know when we were in Edinburgh a few years, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. We really, it was like 10:15 before the sun went down, and it was still light at 11 at night. That was crazy, but you're pretty far north. We probably should have looked and tried to see if we could see some northern lights, but I don't think we ever did, ever looked. Oh, okay. So yeah, and I probably should take off. I've got this concert that I'm playing. I've got to practice with the orchestra. And I've got to run through the songs every day, just so the more prepared I can be, the more comfortable I'll be. In fact, I need to see if they've updated or uploaded any more desktop to this concert. Let's see what we got. No, I'm not on that one. I'm on that, but I don't know what I'm doing yet. See if there's any charts in there yet. No. Okay. All right. So as far as I know, we're good. I'm good, but I need to. I think there's some charts I'm missing, so I need to get so I can start working on them. Hey, Good Karma, what's going on? Life is like a ladder. Oh my, the things I learned in these classes. Yeah, I don't know if it's just the way I kind of feel like it. I feel like when things happen, I go wrong. Now, maybe when I get really old, I'll feel like I'm coming down the ladder. I'm falling off the ladder. But anyway, oh yeah, and I didn't really talk too much about my session on Friday. I had a session on Friday. I got to do a record date with like a 9-hour session, but with John Mayer's bass players, Sean Hurley, great bass player. You can see his interview on Vertex Effects, where Mason, who's a friend of mine, interviews. Mason's wanted to interview me, but I don't really have any hits that I played on, so I'm not sure what he would want to do. So what he would want to talk about, so anyway, I got to play with Sean. Sean's just, his pocket is so good. It just, his feel is so good. I could feel myself getting off or ahead or behind him, but he was like a rock. And I'm trying to kind of put emotion in my playing. I was playing acoustic the whole day, so I didn't play electric. There was another guitar player playing electric. And so I was playing steel string the whole day in weird tunings, like the songwriter, he writes in weird tunings. He likes to do that kind of stuff. And so I have to kind of reimagine the guitar and figure out what I'm doing. But anyway, it was really, really cool. And I hope we get to work together again soon. I'm going to stay in touch with him. He's a good guy to know. And he plays on all of John Mayer's records. And he was in the band Vertical Horizon. And that's how he got his start, and I think that's what brought him to Los Angeles. You're everything you want. Because they were kind of a one-hit wonder right around 2000, I think is when they had their hit. And so, Bumble and Bumble Hair. Yeah, I'm not using it now. I'm using, the Bumble and Bumble got harder to find and expensive. It was like $30 a tube. And I wanted a more crunchy look instead of a lighter look. So I'm more with a crunchy look, and I'm using a real cheap, what's it? Got to be? Is that right? I can find it again here with Amazon. Yeah, it's glued. They call it glued. Yeah, it's 12, one packet. That's a ripoff. Okay. And that's not a bad price. This is basically what I'm using now. And I may go back to the cleaner look at some point, It just depends. But this is what I'm using now. And like I said, it's a little crunchier, a little scrunchier. Yeah, you get your hands wet, you can kind of reshape it a little bit the next day. It's kind of crazy right now, but yeah, and it's pretty much mostly gone right now. And if I don't have it in there, it's like it's super sticky, and you just drop it in, and you can kind of mold your hair the way you want it to go. Yeah, it's pretty much gone now because I can tell my hair is just going wherever it wants to go, which is like my grandfather's hair. So. Yeah, Holly. I was thinking we were talking about you last week, and I've been thinking about you, and yeah, I'm glad you're with family. That's super duper important. My dad passed away. I was just with him, but I had to come home, and then he passed away a week after I left. And I think my sisters went to get lunch, and they came back, and he was gone. One of those kind of things. It's like, oh, it was a bummer, but. Yeah, if you spiked your hair, it looked like Bozo. Yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan made it cool to shave your head if you were going bald. And I don't even know if Michael Jordan was going bald or if he was just trying to be more aerodynamic. I can't even remember Michael Jordan with hair. But our pastor, Pastor Dudley, he had hair, but he did a thing where if they would sign up, like with the youth department, if they signed up 200 kids for youth camp one summer, this was 25 years ago, that he would shave his head. And they signed up like 220 kids. And so my friend Brenda on stage at church shaved his head, and it never grew back. So he's been bald ever since. So he's embraced it, and he just shaves it every night. So. Yep. So anyway, God bless you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Good Karma, good to see you. Joseph, good to see you. Yep, the ice skates and you fall in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have a great week. I'll see you next Monday. I think I'll be here next Monday. It just depends. It's a busy week, and I may have to do prep work early in the week, so we'll see. But so stay tuned. Maybe turn on that notification. I'm hoping to have a video record today if I can for the pentatonic tuning that I showed Paul that he really liked, because it makes sense to do a video on that and to go on a deeper dive on it so people can kind of dig on it. But I have a feeling it may take me a while to edit the thing because I'm creating a lot of diagrams for it, and that takes time. So we'll see. That's the part that, like, I can shoot a video in 10 minutes, but then doing all the diagrams and all that stuff takes time. So, yep. Holly, you take care of yourself. Stay with family. Lots of hugs, and cry when you feel like crying. Okay, it's good. Crying is good for you. So anyway, I will talk to you all soon. God bless you. Bye.